I would like to introduce today's speaker, Angela Almond. She is an amazing individual. She is an intuitive with a deep spiritual focus who has spent over 20 years serving others with compassion as a hospice volunteer and as a facilitator for grief support programs. She is also a level 2 Reiki practitioner, bringing healing energy into her ministry and daily life. Angela is a senior at St. Leo University, pursuing a bachelor's degree in religious studies, and currently working as a manager of health information management for the Bon Secours Hampton Road hospitals. She also currently serves as a director at large on our chapel's board of directors. Angela brings together scholarship, service, and spirit, believing that the sacred is often found in the everyday. So all please join me in welcoming Angela Almond to the podium for her first time. Yay!
Let's see, what time is it? All right, good morning, everyone. I guess I want to open up with a prayer. Dear Father, Mother God, divine presence, known by many names, experienced in many ways, yet one in essence. We welcome your loving awareness here today. We gather in the spirit of one love, the love that transcends religion, culture, identity, and belief. Today we remember that love is not owned by any one path. It is the path. Let's quiet our minds, soften our hearts to the wisdom life offers us this morning. Thank you. And so I want to talk to you today about one love. And we just listened to a wonderful, I think, just beautiful song, How Could Anyone, by Shania Knoll. And so I just want you to take a moment and just recall those words. Let it sit with you. How could anyone ever tell you that you were less than beautiful? How could anyone tell you that you were less than whole? Because if we were all honest, we've heard similar words, either spoken or unspoken, at some point in our lives. We've been told that we are not enough, that we are not worthy, and not lovable. But in this world, we're taught to see separation, differences in religion, identity, and beliefs. We're taught to measure, compare, and sometimes even divide. And what this song brings us back to, and just why it just resonates with me so, is that it brings us back to the truth of who we are, that there is something inside of us that recognizes this truth. And I know you could feel it. You know, when you heard that song, if you didn't feel anything, I know you ought to check your pulse, you know, because we are not broken. We are not lacking, and we are not separate from what is divine, even if life, no matter how hard life has tried to convince you otherwise, we are not separate from the divine. Something deep inside of us still whispers the truth of who we are, that beneath all the labels, all the differences, all the stories we carry, that there is something sacred. There is something sacred in each one of us. And that sacred essence is pure love. Pure love. It's the same love. It's not many loves. It's not separate loves. It's not more over there and less over here. It is all one love. And I want to share with you this morning some of the most sacred moments that I've ever witnessed, where all of these labels, all of these differences just fell away. And having over 20 years of experience as a hospice volunteer and chaplain, my husband and I, Reg, we have had the profound honor of sitting with people from different faiths, many faiths. Some were very religious, some were not religious at all. Some were not religious, but spiritual. Some were atheist. Some were from different cultures. There was LGBT communities, individuals, different ages, different backgrounds. They all had different life stories. But in those moments at the end of life, those differences, I'm gonna move this out. The differences no longer mattered. The differences lose their weight, and something extraordinary is revealed. And it doesn't matter what color, again, your culture, it is the same grace, the same presence, the same love with everyone, and it's unconditional. And what the dying have taught me, have reinforced, is not just something about how we live this life, but something powerful about how we were meant to live this life. Because if that same love, that same presence, that same grace is with us at the end of our life, you better believe it is with us right now. It is accessible to us right now. And it's been here all along. It's within us. It's between us. And I just want to share briefly with you some of the moments that I've learned from these moments about how we can begin to live from that place of love right here and right now, about how we can begin to live from that place of our higher self, that love. And this is a journey where revelation happens, not only through words, but through experience and through resonance. And here's the secret. Learning to live from that place of love. You ready for this? This is the secret. You got your ears open? Okay. Learning to live from that place of love. And you know, we've all chose to be here on this earth at this time, right? So learning to live from that place of love right now is the curriculum. It's the curriculum. Out of all the techniques that we can do, all the meditation techniques that are out there, all of the breathing, breath work, there's so many things that people do to help raise their consciousness. But I would dare to say that learning to love, learning to see past differences is the greatest spiritual practice that there is. And this was found to be true by every teacher that has been sent here, every ascended master. No matter what religion, but whatever system of belief they came from, they all had the same central theme through their teachings, that love is the basis of who we are. And it is, because the scriptures say that God is love. And that is the very essence of who we are. Well, I want to tell you why I became a hospice volunteer, how that all came about. It started when I was in Atlanta. I think this was in the early 80s. And I worked at Grady Hospital there. And I had a friend who worked in hospice. She was a volunteer, and she said, you know, Angela, you would be a great volunteer. And I was like, say hospice, death, dying people. No. And she said, no. She said, come, I want you to come to a care team meeting. and just see how everything works and just see how you feel about it. So I went to a meeting at the hospital, and the care team meeting consists of the doctors, the nurse, the volunteer aides, the social worker, and they discussed the patients that they saw that week. Okay, and this one patient that they were discussing, and any names that I happen to use during this talk is all fictitious, okay? I mean, the people are real, but the names have been changed to protect the innocent, okay? So, but the young man who they were talking about at this meeting, he had AIDS. And you know, in the early 80s, AIDS, there was not a lot of information about AIDS, and there was a lot of fear. There just wasn't a whole lot known. So for any individual who was suffering from that illness, they were ostracized, you know, aside from all the effects of the illness itself. And so when they were discussing this individual, everything that individual did through the week was so important. It mattered whether they smiled that day, whether they were able to sit up that day, how much they ate, what they said, everything mattered. And that just touched my heart. It just touched my heart because I said, isn't that how we should treat each other anyway? You know, why should we have to wait till the end of our life, till someone is ill to, you know, and people come around to experience that? You know, we should be feeling and caring for each other like that every day. And so that was the start of my journey into hospice. And I just want to share some of the things that I've learned from just a couple of things, because over the 20 years, we've seen a lot of people. We've sat with a lot of different faiths and a lot of different experiences, but I just want to share a couple of them with you. But one of the things that they all had in common is that at the end of life, people, they do a lot of work. A lot of inner work is being done at that time. And for a lot of people, that is really the first time that they really live their authentic self. You know, that's when all the labels strip away, all the titles, you know, and they say things that they've been meaning to say all their life, whether it's love you to someone that they haven't said that to in a long time, and even to say I love you to themselves. You know, it's not just other people, but how we treat ourselves. What is our inner dialogue concerning ourselves? That is so important as well. And one of the things that I've learned with each individual is that words are not always necessary. Sometimes the greatest thing that you can do is to offer your presence. And with the divine living in you, the Spirit of God within you, you have that divine presence. And that's part of our job, if you will, for souls who have decided to incarnate here at this time, is to share that presence. And it doesn't require anything from you. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have a PhD. You don't have to have all of those things. You just have to be in touch with your inner self, your higher self, and that emanates naturally from you. But one of the individuals that I had the pleasure of knowing, and I'll just call him Earl, and from him I learned to look beyond the physical disabilities. And this could be looking beyond even emotional or psychological, you know, what we perceive to be shortcomings. And this was in Atlanta. And this individual, he had cancer that had metastasized to his head. And I know the chaplain was talking to me about him, giving me a prep. and about him. And she was trying to, I guess, prepare me so that when I went to talk with him, and to be with him, that, I would know what to expect. Okay. And she told me that he always wore a hat, because when the cancer metastasized to his head, he had all of these growths all over his head. And the amazing thing about Earl is that he had been in hospice for a while. And then he said, I'm not ready. And he was married. And he had, I think he had 2 kids. But he said, I'm not ready. He decided he was not ready. So he came out of the hospice program. Now, to be in hospice, it was, you're given like 6 months or less to live, right? And so during the time that he stepped out, he got the house remodeled. He did all of these things to help his wife so that after his passing, she would have everything that she needed. He was so concerned about that. And when he finished all of that, he called the chaplain and said, okay, I'm ready. And then that's when she called me. So I went to see him, and I was going up and I was trying to prepare myself. They told me, what to expect physically. And so when I went into his home, and at that time there were family members there, and he was in the bed, in like the back part of the living room. And he was laying on his side. His eyes were open. And so when I went in, and it was like, I don't know, it was almost like, I don't want to say mystical, but there was that connection. I looked, he didn't have his hat on, but I looked him straight in the eyes, and he looked at me. And it was like I could hear what he had to say, what he wanted. And his thoughts was with his wife. And I said, okay, I sat with him a little bit, and I held his hand and told him that everything was going to be all right, and that he did a great job. You did a great job. And I said, I know you want me to go to be with your wife, and I'm going to go talk with her now. And he just looked at me, and he's like, he wasn't really, he could comprehend, but, he really couldn't speak. And so I went to be with his wife, and just that look on his face when I told him I was going to see his wife, it just lit up. It lit up. And from him, I learned looking beyond physical, looking beyond, what other people categorize as shortcomings. Okay. And this is part of one love. And this is what part of Jesus came to talk about. Our brother Jesus, believe it or not, he did not come to bring a religion. He did not come to be worshiped. He came to be an example of us, of how to be in alignment with that Christ consciousness within, with our higher self. And that's what I learned from Earl. And this other gentleman that I want to share, he was a retired Marine. He was, I think was in his late 70s, maybe, late 70s. And from all outward appearances, you would not think we had anything in common. I mean, he was a tough guy, Marine, big guy, and he was European American. So I say that because, his family was there, and, they had different backgrounds, different beliefs, and you would not think, you would think at that time, had it been any other time, focuses may have been on our differences, but it wasn't. It wasn't. And this is one of those instances where, labels and categories and things like that just fell away. And the thing that really stood out with John was that, and his was really truly mystical. And when I went to see him, I was, kind of clear my own consciousness, my own mind, so that I could hear my stance was to follow the lead of the patient. And so I wanted to be able to hear what I was to say, if there was words to be said. Okay. So for John, the main thing with him, and he was quite a character too, and we got to become quite close with John and his family. His fear of dying, and there was no one to talk about that with. He couldn't talk about that with anyone, because family members, a lot of people are not comfortable with that conversation. So this one visit, he wanted to know what to expect. He wanted to know what it was going to be like. And so, I'm kind of listening. Okay, Spirit, where do you want me to go from here? Now, at this time, I wouldn't say that I was kind of into the woo like I am now, but I knew that there was something greater, something beyond that connected us, that was directing me. So, and to express this in a manner that he would understand, I said, well, the love you have for your granddaughter, I said, can you imagine that? How do you feel when you see your granddaughter when she comes into the room? And he was like, okay, I said, you're so full of love, aren't you? And he goes, yeah, love that little girl. And I said, that's what it's like. That's what you can expect. And no matter how terrified you may be right now, just thinking about it, when that moment comes, there is a grace. And I've seen this no matter what background, how the person has lived their life, whatever their story was, there is a grace, there is a love that meets everyone, no matter how they pass. Whether it's tragic, whether it's after a long illness, sometimes at that moment, at that part, there is a grace, there is a love that meets them. And I told John, I said, well, it's like, leaving this place, it's almost like, and I had on my jacket at the time, and I remember I just kind of took it off and I said, you're like taking off your jacket. You're taking off what's cumbersome. You're taking off an overcoat. And then you're kind of stepping out. And just as people here, there are those here who will miss your presence, there will be those to welcome you too on that side. And it seemed to bring him peace. And it gave his family a lot of peace. And he was from a traditional Christian background. And then at his passing, at his funeral, and we, of course, my husband and I, we were invited to come. And it was way out. It was kind of out there. And we were running a little bit behind. And they would not start the funeral until we got there. But they wanted us, everything just to begin when we got there. But that's what I learned from John, is that presence is everything. Just the presence, and no matter what your identities, it all falls away. All of the labels. Sometimes we just held hands. Sometimes, and in that space, somewhere in that space, there was a shift where two human beings just connected. And that's what I felt. I felt in that moment was the same love that we just sang about, that we heard in the song that played at the beginning. That a love that does not depend on agreement, it doesn't require sameness, but a love that simply is. It's a love that says, I see you and you matter. We're not as separate as we think. And then the last one I just want to share is this young man. He was 18. And he had this illness. It was a type of muscular dystrophy that affected the males. in the family, not the females, but it was the males. And I remember when I was given this patient, and the grief counselor, and this was here in Newport News, was telling me about this patient and his family, and it had been so, his older brother had passed of the same illness. So he knew, I guess what to expect. And this had taken its toll on the family, and they had made the decision that after he passed, they were going to get a divorce. So when they were telling me all of this, and then I was a little bit more traditional. I was still had a foot in the more traditional Christianity, and I'm like, devil, you cannot have him. You cannot have this family. I don't know how they are not going to divorce. They're not, you just can't have it. You can't have it. And so Reg and I went to see him, and our plan was, while we, ministered or sat with the young man, was to have a chance to talk with the parents. Well, that didn't happen. We didn't get a chance to talk with the parents. Every time we went there, it was, and I even took Cecilia. Is Cecilia here? Okay. She even, she went with us. And because he loved, I think it was some kind of toys, something that he liked. It was something. But anyway, but he didn't have a lot of interaction with younger kids. So, and that's one of the side things of being a child of me and Reg. You got to do stuff like that. But anyway, but we never did have a chance to talk with the parents, but we did sit a lot with the young man. And he had the most beautiful glow. He was luminous. You could see the spirit just come through his eyes. And, Reg and I had given him a pin of eagle's wings, because he had that kind of spirit. And we talked to him about the love of God. We didn't preach. We never preached. And then we just sat with the parents, interacted. Whatever they needed us to do, we did. And we even baptized the young man. He wanted to be baptized. So we did that. And at the time of his passing, he had told his mother that he wanted to be wearing that pin, eagle's wings. So we did that. And Reg and I, we did their funeral. We actually did everything. We supplied the music, the programs. And all the people were, his family. And it was actually in one of the cemeteries, funeral homes. And I remember the music was playing and I was praying. It was a small building. It's a small building that was like in the middle of the cemetery. And so we were praying. And so then when I looked up, I think about 3 more young men with the same illness. They're all in the same family, I guess from cousins. They had wheeled in, and they were, at the side of the pew in the aisle. And it was like, and well, we had a lovely service and everything. And afterwards, I heard one of the young men tell his father, he said, "You never told me I was going to die from this," because he was seeing his cousin for the first time. And then afterwards, we had a lot of people, that wanted Reg and I to talk with them. But to long story short, they ended up not getting a divorce. And it was because of what we were told about just how Reg and I interacted with each other and with the couple, and just whatever. And this is where presence will speak through you. And this isn't just reserved for us because we do what we do. You have the same power that's within you. And they never did get it. They did not get a divorce, and they actually made a donation to the hospice program at the hospital here. And so I've seen this time and time again, and this love shows up so clearly at the end of life when everything falls away. Then why do we have to wait until the end to recognize it, to see each other so clearly, to love without condition? And I think it's easier at that time because a lot of things that's unnecessary in our lives, just naturally falls away. So what would it look like if we chose right now to see each other beyond the labels, beyond our differences, beyond the stories that we've been told about one another? What would it look like to meet each person we encounter with that same presence and that same love? Because I truly believe that the greatest lesson is this: love is not something we earn. It's not something reserved for certain people or certain moments. It's who we are. It's the essence. It's the kingdom of heaven within us. And this truth is not new. It's been spoken and taught and lived long before us. In Luke, Gospel of Luke 17:20 and 21, we're told that the kingdom of God does not come with observation, nor will they say, see here or see there, for the kingdom of God is within you. Everyone put your hand on your heart and say, within me. It's not outside you. It's not reserved for another time. It's not reserved for the great by and by or another place, but it is within you. And if the kingdom of God is within us, then what lives within us? I tell you, it's love, the very essence of who we are. And this is what our brother Jesus Christ came to show us. He did not come to be admired. He did not come to be worshiped. When he said that I am the way, the truth, and the life, he was not talking about his personality. He was talking about a way, an extraordinary way of being that is to be a model for us, for our life. It's that consciousness, that Christ consciousness. And it's, and it's so funny. I saw this, and I'm about to wrap up. I saw this sticker. I don't know. It was online. It may have been Temu. I don't know. It was online. But it was like a sticker of Jesus, and he was going like this. He's like, oh my God, that's not what I said. And that's the way it is. Scriptures have, as I've been learning, have learned in my studies, everything's been written and rewritten and rewritten and rewritten, removed, put in, changed to reflect the agenda of whoever was, maybe in power or whatever at the time. But he came to be a model of what it looked like to be fully anchored in love. And as I said, the words have been changed. When he said that I am the way, the truth, and the life, words have been changed. What if it was really, I am, is the way, the truth, the life? That's different. That is so different. So he came to be an example of how to be aligned with your higher self. And he is one of many teachers who came to show us who we are and who we can become. And if we truly take his teachings to heart, then we are called, particularly at this time in humanity's history, not just to believe in love, but like Jesus, we are called to embody it, to live it, to extend it, and to recognize it in one another. And it's that same love that's within us. It connects us, and it guides us, and it calls us to be higher. And so before I close, I want to invite you to take this moment with me, not because this is not something that's to be just heard, but it's something to be remembered. And I want us to kind of remember this like together. So I'll say a line, and if it resonates with you, I invite you to respond, one love lives in me. So, okay, so let's try it. Here we go. The kingdom of God is not far away. It is within you. One love lives within me. You are not separate. You are not lacking. You are beautiful. You are whole. One love lives within me. We are connected beyond every label, beyond every distance. We are connected. One love lives within me. That same love that meets us in our final moments lives within us right now. One love lives within me. And so as we go out, as we leave this place, let's kind of commit ourselves to live this truth. And so I want to leave this with you. The kingdom of heaven, one love is within you, is within you. So let us pray. Dear Father, Mother God, we thank you for speaking to our hearts, reminding us that we are not human beings seeking love, but love expressed as human beings. And so it is.